how I looked at relationships differently, how I viewed relationships before and after taking the red pill, and what makes my outlook different than a lot of yes men and a lot of simp guys. So I have to do a before and after to kind of juxtapose, you know, and contrast the difference between wanting love and wanting to find the right one and wanting to be married, and then taking the red pill and being very skeptical of love, being very, very, I use the word skeptical and not cynical, but skeptical of love. Okay, because I don't want to be negative. I don't want to believe that it's not possible to find love, to find the right one. That would be cynical. But to be skeptical is more realistic. I got to look at reality. I got to look at what's really going on. I got to look at how people really behave. And from that, I can make an assessment and say, hey, is this a rational, doable, plausible thing to engage in? And my consensus and my conclusion is that no, it's not, in large part, in the most part, given many factors. So to juxtapose, I started out blue pilled, meaning I believed in love. As a kid, I grew up watching romantic movies. The 90s was when I grew up, and there was either sex in movies or there was love in movies, and there was really no in between. It was just one or the other. It was like you had movies where guys were having sex with these women, and then you have movies where guys were falling in love with these women, which is an interesting parallel, right? Very interesting, because it's like, you might conflate the two. If you're digesting that kind of content consistently, you might conflate sex with love. And sex is a part of love, but the type of sex that Hollywood was having was hookup sex, right? So that's not real love, right? Hookup sex is just like, it's all about the act of sex. It's, which is an intimate thing, but it becomes dirty and raunchy and naughty when you don't have love attached to it. So you could argue and say, like, well, there's a schism there, or there's a subtlety there where maybe there's some programming, maybe. And that might speak to a larger extent of why we live in a hookup culture today, how our culture has become so hedonistic and immoral. You could argue that there was social engineering from decades of subtle subliminal programming, or not so subtle subliminal programming. Once everybody got the internet, porn was free, right? Which is, if something's free, you're the product, which is crazy, but that's a whole nother story. Or it's, it's probably somewhat related. But so I had the juxtaposition of beginning with blue pill, right? Blue pill. I saw a lot of movies with romance that affected me. I always kind of believed in love. I always wanted love. And then I would see these romance movies, and I was like, yeah, this is what I want. I really want to fall in love. And I was very naive with it. I was very naive with that goal, and I really believed in true love. And I had girlfriends, and there was a couple. I've always had girlfriends my whole life, but I was never like super popular with girls. I was never the guy, that all the girls wanted all the time. Or I was never really desired after like that. I would muster up a girlfriend here or there every once in a while, every other year or something like that in my little middle school and high school. And girls were like, and I think a lot of it on their part was curiosity. I don't think I've ever been overtly objectively attractive to women in a highly desirable context. I think maybe a lot of women would be like, oh, he's kind of cute, or he's maybe an attractive man in a certain light, but for the most part, not really, right? And so I'm thankful for that in a way, because it's like it gave me a perspective. It's like these guys who were just highly sought after, some of them become simps in their mindset, and they never get red pilled, or some of them just become womanizers. So that gave me a kind of perspective, from the beginning, is that women were not really into me that much ever. So it's like okay, you know, I get it, and it gave me a you know, backdrop to highlight, you know, certain behaviors and things like that. Um, but I still wanted love, and I always wanted love, and it wasn't until after I became red pilled that I realized like, oh, okay, so this is very much egotistical. It was way worse than I thought. So you know, middle school and high school, you're naive, right? You don't really know a whole lot, and that's a perfect time to be blue pilled. Perfect time to be blue pilled because you're very idealistic. You're naive and you're idealistic. So you believe in love. You believe that like, oh, you know, life is this, you know, life can be this fairy tale type thing, etc. And I guess you could argue and say, well, you just grew up privileged or you grew up soft or whatever. Well, I grew up idealistic. I grew up watching a lot of movies, and I had suffering. You know, I had pain. My parents divorced, or actually they didn't divorce. They separated, and you know, I grew up poor, so I suffered, but I still had a lot of idealism, and I wasn't, you know, I didn't live in the ghetto, and it wasn't like, well, I don't even have time for idealism because I'm trying to survive day to day, kind of thing. It was never that bad, and I'm thankful for that, but it still kind of fostered an ideal. I just my dad was never the type to be like, all right, son, look, this is the real reality of life, and it's harsh, and you got to work hard, and it's like, as a man, it sucks. Da, da, da. He never told me anything like that. In fact, he was really just a negative example of what not to be. You know, don't become an alcoholic. Don't be like dad, right? That was kind of just my thing. But with that, I didn't have an anchor. I didn't have anybody telling me, you know, life is freaking hard, particularly as a man, you know. So I was very idealistic, and with that came this blue pill want for love. And I had girlfriends here and there. I had some crushes. One of them, my first real love was actually, you know, this really attractive girl named Stacy in eighth grade. She was Spanish, and she was really cute. Um, and I actually cheated on her. Well, I mean, I kind of did cheat on her, I guess, with this other Spanish girl who was like kind of a little, you know, a little loose girl, a little bit. Her name was Fallon, and I cheated on Stacy with Fallon, and I felt so bad about it because I really loved Stacy. She was my first love, and I loved her, but I felt so bad about it. And I, you know, when I say cheat, it wasn't sex. It was I just like I kissed this other girl or something. I think it was I just kissed her and like hung out with her, and we made out or something like that. So I felt so bad about it because I loved Stacy, and we had a real love. We had like this kind of like cutesy puppy love kind of thing, and I was all about Stacy because she was so attractive, and it was weird because it was like, wow, this I've never had. I don't think I've ever had it since either. I've never had what I had with Stacy since, because it was like this girl was like, for me, she was just gorgeous, and like I just was like, oh, I felt so bonkers about her. And we would go hang out and we would kiss and we would like, you know, hug and cuddle, and like you know, we never had sex, even though I think one time she wanted me to, or she probably for sure did. But it's just, you know, because even in eighth grade, it's like girls are, I think she must have been what, 14, 13, 14. So it's like coming to be about that age. But there was a couple times where like she was giving me the green light for that, and I didn't, because I you know, I didn't even know what I was doing at that age, and I was nervous or whatever, and it just never happened. I didn't lose my virginity until like 4 years later when I was 18. But this is too much information. But anyway, but well, I'll talk about that in a second. But so I cheated on her. I kissed another girl, and I felt really bad about it. And I felt so bad because I really loved Stacy, and I wanted to be honest, and I wanted to like confess to her that I made a mistake, and I'm sorry, because I felt really bad. I felt guilty, and so you know, I'm what, 13, 14, eighth grade, so you know, you're dumb, you don't know, and I didn't have anyone to ask or tell me like what to do, so I just told her, and she just hung up the phone on me, never talked to me again, ever. So, and she was cute, and she had, you know, she was all pop. She became more popular in high school, and guys liked her and stuff. And I think I saw her one time at a basketball game, and she kind of just looked at me like somebody up on a hill looks down on some peasant. at the bottom of the hill. But um, so yeah, so that was my real only love. That was my blue pill love, and I messed it up. And it was in eighth grade, so it probably wouldn't have worked out anyways. And she used to say things like, "Oh, you're gonna go off to high school, and all these other girls are gonna like you," and da da da. So she was all worried about. Apparently, I guess she thought I was gonna go cheat on her or something. Once I go to high school or something, and because I was a year ahead of her, I think is what it was. She was in seventh grade and I was in eighth grade, I think, something like that, because I was gonna go to ninth grade, and then she was a year behind me. So she was afraid that once I went to ninth grade, I'd have all these other girls, which didn't really happen. But I did actually meet a girl in ninth grade. Her name was Jen, and I'm gonna say her last name. I'm not gonna say her last name, but her name is Jennifer, and she spelled it Jenn for some reason, not Jen, but Jenn. And she was a softball player, and she was blonde, and she was really attractive to me. She had these gorgeous eyes, gorgeous green eyes, and for some reason we started dating. I remember walking home one time, and she was out playing softball, and we kind of exchanged looks or whatever, and for whatever reason we just started dating. And I think she was probably my first red pill experience, because I really liked her, and I got crushes on her. And she's actually the girl I lost my virginity to a couple of years later. But I had a big crush on her, and then I was too nervous. She was like, we were in the same grade, so she was like 15, 14, 15 in like ninth grade. I think she was 15. Anyway, ninth grade, and I was too nervous to do anything with her. So what ended up happening was she ended up being a homie hopper. She messed around, had sex with a bunch of my friends. A couple years later though, this was ninth grade, and so she ended up just dumping me because I was boring or whatever. And I didn't even know it at the time. I just knew I was hurt. And she had some girl come up and tell me like, "Oh, Jen doesn't want to be your girlfriend anymore." And I was just like, "Oh, well, that sucks." So, but that was ninth grade, and then I switched schools for 2 years, and then I met her again like late in my junior year, and then I eventually lost my virginity to her. But she was also sleeping with a bunch of guys in my friend group, so she was kind of a big hoe. And I learned she was messing around with this guy who was like in college, and so it was my first red pill experience, and it kind of opened my eyes. It kind of unveiled, which is really weird because she was dating this guy who had this cool car, who was in college. He was like he was like the quintessential bad boy, and this was like the '90s, but he was a real bad boy. Like I think he was like getting arrested for stuff, and it was like, but he drove this cool Mustang, and for some reason, which was really bizarre, but I found his like ID somewhere. Like I was walking at like late at night one time, and there was this car, and I think it might have been his car. It was like a Mustang or something. And like by the car there was a driver's license, and I was like, whoa, this is really weird. And I picked it up, and it was the guy, and I was like, that's the guy that Jen's messing with. And I can't even remember how I figured out she was messing with this guy. But anyway, so I put the driver's license down, and I was just like, that is so weird. And I remember thinking when I saw that driver's license, I was like, oh yeah, this guy's a bad boy. And I think it might have even said something on his driver's license that he got picked up for drunk driving or something like that. Because they used to like make marks on your driver's license where like they'd put a hole in it or something if you got caught for drunk driving. Anyway, so I just kind of like, that was my first red pill experience. So I would say those were my two. And I didn't really date. I mean, I went on like a date with this hot blonde girl one time, and we made out, and like I had some girlfriends here and there. Like this one girl really liked me. She was this cute little blonde girl. I played basketball, and like that kind of helped me, being on the basketball team, and being tall and skinny, and like, girls were looking a little bit, but not really too much. But I didn't date a whole lot in high school. Like actually middle school, and I think I had more girlfriends in middle school. But anyway, so let's see. So that was really my red pill experience. So that was kind of my transition. And then once I graduated high school and I got out, and I started realizing like, oh, girls aren't looking at me anymore. What happened? And I realized like, oh, well, high school was like this little bubble. high school was this little bubble where like you're kind of cool in high school a little bit if you're on the basketball team or you got a cool car or like you're popular. Like it's like a microcosm of the real world. And then when I got out, I realized, oh, I'm 18, 19. I'm not playing college basketball. I don't have a cool car. I don't have anything going for me, like with money or anything. And like, I just had zero opportunities, zero options for girls. And I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. And it was hard though. It was not something where like it happened in a day. It took me years to like really cope and understand and like man up and be like, oh, okay, the world life is harsh. The world is harsh, and there's hypergamy, and I didn't even know that word, but I was experiencing. I didn't even know what that word was. I'd never heard that word before. I didn't even hear about that word till I was like in my late 20s. But I was experiencing hypergamy in my early 20s, and I didn't know what it was. And I was like, oh, well, girls are chasing this type of guy, that type of guy, and I realized, oh, okay, so I got my first experience of looks, money, status. And then after a while, I started realizing it's ego. There's a lot of ego involved in these women, and it's attached to hypergamy, and it's attached to the fact that men are bending over backwards to impress them, and it's attached to the fact that they have these high standards, and like it's all like, and then I really took the red pill, got hooked up with Morpheus, right, when he's handing the red pill. Like I went down the rabbit hole, and I was like, okay, this is all just this weird race or game to impress women so that guys can get sex, so that guys can get intimacy, and women are bartering with sex. Women are using sex and intimacy as a bartering tool, as a tool to get what they want from men. And then I just dove right down the rabbit hole, and I was like, that's absolutely what it is. And I realized it, and it was harsh. It didn't happen overnight. It was a harsh transformation. It really was. Because I still was holding, you hold on to that blue pill hope. You hold on to that hope. Oh, I'll find love. Because the Hollywood romantic, love story, romance storybook love that you always wanted, even as a man. And we get demonized. Oh, guys only want sex. Men are all pigs. Woo, woo, woo. All this crap. But men want romance too. Men want love. Men have that idealism of storybook love, and it was hard to let go. It was hard to like, and sometimes even now it still pops up. Sometimes like, oh man, I really want love, But as I carried on as an adult, went forward in my years as an adult, all I really saw was just this exchange, this conditional love, this transactional love, where these guys would go out and get a good job and get a house, and then they would get the woman, and it was all conditional. It was all contingent upon his ability to provide, and what type of money and what type of lifestyle he can provide for her, and all this stuff. And then I really started looking at women as just like, I don't know the word, but just not human, not loving, not not normal. Like it just killed my blue pill idealistic concept of romance. Hypergamy kills romance. I've made videos like hypergamy is not loyalty, but I say now hypergamy kills romance. It's not romantic to size up a guy based on his money, based on the lifestyle he can provide for you, based on the fact that you're attracted to his status and his fame and all this stuff that women chase after. That killed my blue pill. It killed my idealism. So now how I look at it is like, it's so what's the word I'm looking? It's so imbalanced to the point where like it's laughable, to the point where like you've got women out here who are like literal 2 out of 10s in looks, 2 out of 10s, and they're so egotistical. Their hypergamy is so overblown and out of whack that they believe they deserve a 10 out of 10 guy, and it's not even like it's complete delusion. Like it's not even close to being, well, you're not far off. It's not even close to being rational. It's like it's absolute delusion. Um, and the crazy thing is like, to some extent, they're kind of it kind of it, that kind of is their reality, because of how, and when, I'll admit this, and women do say this, guys will sleep with anything. It's true, guys will sleep with anything, and because of that, women are out here, women who otherwise should have zero options have options, if that makes sense. Women out here who should have zero options have options. Whereas a guy out here who's like a good dude, good working guy, stays in shape, funny, well-rounded, pretty much on every metric, besides he's probably not great looking, he's not a Chad or whatever, he's struggling. And I've seen this again and again and again with like these guys who, like the average guy, the guy who's average, the guy who's like, yeah, he's not a movie star, good looking, but he's a nice enough guy. He's cool. Like, he doesn't dress great, but he doesn't dress horrible. Like, he's not in incredible shape, but he's not in bad shape. Like, he's just average. This guy is lonely and dejected, and can't get sex, can't get a girlfriend. You go to the mall and you see these guys all over, and it's like you go out in public, you see these guys, and they just have this forlorn look where, like, yeah, I'm struggling, but I'm dealing with it. Or like, because guys, we have to go forward. We can't just cry about our situation, and that's another thing that, like, when I was younger, was hard. What was a learning curve for me, was hard to do, was like, I'm depressed, like, I'm struggling, I haven't had a girlfriend in years, I'm broke, I don't have any prospects, I'm not great looking. Like, how do I find the motivation and the courage to pick myself up, to go out here and work some job I don't want to work, to study and learn and hit the gym when it doesn't seem like there's any opportunity, that it doesn't seem like there's any prospects. And like, I know a lot of guys are all motivated, like, well, that's the best time, but it's hard if you got no incentive, there's no guarantee. In fact, there's probably a guarantee that it won't even matter. There's probably a guarantee that you work your hardest, you do your best, you get as buff as you can, you look smacks, you improve your wisdom, your humor, you improve your finances, you do all these things to attract women. It probably still won't even matter, because you just weren't born as attractive as this dude as this dude over here, who doesn't even really have to try. He just goes out, and all he has to do is show up, and it's like, game for him is like, oh yeah, game totally works. All I gotta do is apply this, and the reason why it works is because he's good looking. Whereas you could do the same type of game, apply this, humor, know all the tricks, push pull method, warm her up, all the little PUA terminology type stuff. You do everything to a T. It won't matter, because you're just not as lucky, genetically, as this dude. He's just better looking than you, right? And this is the reality of so many guys out here. And it's not the same for women. It's the opposite, where you got average girls who, like, really are like, she's got no ass, she's short, she's got no titties, or like she's not even, she's like kind of attractive, but she's overweight, she's dumpy looking, and these girls are spoiled for choice. And that's when I was like, oh my God. Like, and so this is how I look at dating. This is how I look at it. I look at it like this. Why would I sit around and wait around hoping for one of these average girls who, in reality, if the genders were flipped and she was an average guy, she would have no options. She would get no attention from the opposite sex. She would be struggling. She would be depressed, possibly suicidal. You know what I mean? Which the average guy out here is going through, right? Why would I
entertain that? Why would I work super hard just so I can get an average girl who's probably got a high body count, probably is a narcissist, probably takes everything for granted, probably thinks the world revolves around her, probably is going to think that she runs the relationship. She's not going to be grateful for me. She's not going to like really love me. And you know, it's all of ego. It's ego. I don't care if you're in church. I don't care if you're on the mission fields and you're working with nuns or whatever. There's ego when it comes to any and every woman. It's super rare if you can find a woman who doesn't have ego, whether she's attractive or not. Even women who are not attractive have ego. It's bonkers. It's bananas. If you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. But why would I work hard just so I can maybe potentially get with one of these girls who's average and she thinks that like she's the prize and I've got to win her over and like why would I do that? You know, I would have to have very low self esteem to do that. I would have to have no um, no real quality viewpoint of myself, to stoop to that, you know, and so this is how I look at dating is like the average woman's ego, the average woman's pride is so narcissistic, is so attached to narcissism and self-aggrandizement that none of it, it's not even worth it for me. Like humbleness, that's attractive to me. Humbleness is a trait in general that's absolutely underrated in general for men and women. Humbleness for women particularly, because it's almost not too hard for most men to be humble, because we have to be humble because we know our limitations and we're constantly being tested and we're constantly suffering. If you're average, most men, right? And even a lot of guys who really are above average and they don't know it, they're struggling too. But that's another story. But most average guys are struggling. So you kind of have to be humble. It's your default personality. Your default trait is being humble. For a woman, they're not. And so why, part of that ego is like, you gotta win me, you gotta pursue me and win me over because I've got all these guys who are interested in me and lining up to date me and marry me. And it's like, well, then I don't want to have anything to do with that. That's how I look at it, is like, you know, if you're not even meeting me 50-50, if you don't even love me in the same way that I love you, if you're not pursuing me in the same way I'm pursuing you, why would I do? It's like, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, I should be grateful to have somebody who's used goods, who's got an ego, who's a narcissist. I should be grateful to have somebody who's um, who thinks that I'm supposed to win her over, and I'm the one who's pursuing and chasing her because she was raised in this gynocentric society where there's female privilege running rampant, where you got this princess syndrome type of women who believe they're the princess and they're the prize, and guy's got to storm the castle to get her, and he's got to do all the things to get her. It's all about her, right? Why would I do that? That's how I look at it. Is like, and not only that, that the below average women believe that they're like that. So imagine if you go up the tiers, like you got a 5 out of 10, you got a 7 out of 10, you got an 8 out of 10, 9, 10 out of 10, right? Imagine how much the standard of the bar raises as you go up. You got 10 out of 10 women out here who won't even leave their house unless the guy's got a yacht, won't even leave the house unless the guy's famous. If people understood and knew the underbelly of what's going on in real life, of what's going on in the dating apps, of what's going on Tinder, Instagram, Twitter, these girls out here are banging celebrities. That's the reality of what's going on. They're being flown to Dubai by millionaire oil baron Arab guys and doing all kinds of nasty stuff. That is normal. That's the regular. That's not the exception. That's not like I'm talking about for the hot girls, the girls who are hot enough to take pictures of themselves and put themselves on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Basically prostitutes, basically porn girls, cam girls, whatever. But they don't have to be necessarily. You could just be. I'm saying physically that level of hotness. That's the standard. I'm serious. That's the standard. You got to have a Bugatti to date her. You got to have a Ferrari. You got to be famous. You got to be in Hollywood. You got to own a yacht. You got to like. I'm not kidding, man. Like that's the standard for a lot of these girls. They're like they're not leaving the house unless you can prove you're a millionaire. Seriously, that's hypergamy. That's how insane hypergamy has gotten. So what does that mean? It means that the average girl believes she's a 10 out of 10. The real 10 out of 10s are like on God status. They're like they're out of this world with their hypergamy. It's not even about even high class guys can't get with them. You got to be that extra. You got to be that 0.01%. It's not the 10%. It's not the 20%. It's not even the 5 or the 1%. It's the 0.01% for a lot of these 10 out of 10s. I'm saying, so if you can get a 10 out of 10, like you've done more than win the lottery. Like you're the one of the luckiest guys. It really is like that, and it's like there's two different ways you can look at that. You could be like you could turn into a simp, and you could be like, okay, women are special, amazing, and I'm enamored with them, and I'd be so lucky to have one, and I'm this groveling pile of, oh, please let me sleep with you, please let me date you. And this is where you get the simp guys, because they're daunted by all that. They're daunted by the ego. They're daunted by her arrogance, and they mistake it for confidence, and they mistake it for power when it's really just a false power, and it's a corrupted power. It's a fraudulent power, because if you knew what those girls were really doing, they're not sweet, quality, inwardly wholesome, traditional, moral women. They're the exact opposite of all that. They're out here doing things that you know their grandma would faint. Well, nowadays the grandmas are just as bad, but I'm talking about morally. I'm talking about intrinsic value. It's all vapid. It's all outward. It's all shallow. It's all materialistic. It's all about the looks, and this is how bad our society has gotten. So you could take that standpoint and be like, oh, well, she's so beautiful, and I would just be so in her debt if she even just looked at me, and like this type of just weak simp male behavior. Or you could take the red pill and you could be like, you know what, that whole thing is fucked up. That whole thing, that whole system, that whole way of living, and that just all of that, women dating, impressing her, standards, hypergamy, gynocentrism, all of that it doesn't benefit me at all. I don't want anything to do with any of that, because it doesn't lift me up. It doesn't give me, I have to, at the very least, I have to be a slave, a wage slave, in order to afford a woman. I've said this before, but there's nobody who's more stuck in the matrix. Nobody who's more stuck in the matrix than a guy working hard to afford a woman. Think about that. There's nobody who's more stuck in the matrix than a guy working hard to afford a woman. He's become a slave so that he can have a woman in his life. Whereas instead of her helping him achieve his goals, her helping him make money, or her helping him become a better guy, her helping, be an addition to his life in a positive, loving, supportive, humble way, rather he's this workhorse. He's a horse with a cart behind it, dragging around her wishes, her goals, her whims, what she wants to do. I want to go on vacation. I want this cool piece of furniture. I want that. I want you to get me this so my lifestyle can be better, and you're the guy. You're supposed to do it because you're supposed to impress me, and da-da-da-da. He's the workhorse for her. He's carrying around her dreams and her goals and her wishes and this, that, and the third, right? Nobody's more stuck in the matrix than that guy. Nobody's more stuck in the matrix. And so that's the choice. I could be this groveling simp who's, oh yes dear, I'll do anything, I'll go work harder and buy you this and this, and I'll let you do anything you want, and you have all the power in the relationship, because I'm just so enamored by the fact that a pretty girl wants me, and you know, because I'm so lucky to have her. You hear those guys, I'm so lucky to have you, and woo woo. These are the guys women, first of all, they don't respect that guy. They're just like, yeah, I can walk all over that guy, da da da. Second of all, even if they allow to be in a relationship with that guy, it's all about her. It's about her ego. It's about what she wants. It's about her narcissism, her power, right? And she wears the pants in the relationship, to say the least. It's really just a sick kind of, if you watch that movie Alice in Wonderland, the old Disney movie Alice in Wonderland, and when she goes and sees the queen, the queen's like this terrible narcissist sociopath, all about me, 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 and the king is like this little guy, this short little guy who's like, oh, me too, I'm the king, hello, hello. Like that's the average relationship today. When I look outside, well, I shouldn't say it's the average relationship, but that does happen a lot, right? Where these guys are just cucks for her in one way or another, whether it's literally she's out having sex and he's supportive of it, but really it's the dynamic. He's a cuck in the dynamic. I'm so lucky to have her, it's all about her, and I'm just so and I'll do anything to keep her, and it's like it's all about her. She's not like, oh, I'm lucky to have him, I'm working to help. It's like, she's just like, yep, I'm the prize, and she just sits there with this smirk on her face, like she doesn't have to do anything, and he's the slave who's, you know what I mean. And so it's like, you could look at it from those two perspectives. It's like, for me, I look at it like, I don't want any parts of that. Like, if you're not going to help me, if you're not going to be humble, if you're not going to really, uh, love me and support me in the same way that I'm expected to love and support you, then it's like, no, because I'm not here to impress you. You're not my master. You don't run me. And this is what women think. They think, oh, because I'm the woman and the guys are working so hard, and they see it, and it's true, because guys are out here working hard. And what are they working hard for? Everybody knows why we try to make more money. Everybody knows why we try to hit the gym and improve. Everybody knows why we're out here trying to drive a cooler car and live in a nicer place and have nicer things, because we're trying to impress women, and women know this, and they're like, okay, all I gotta do is be pretty, and the guy's gonna give me everything, and then I just gotta sit around and pick and wait for the best guy, and then but I'll sleep with these guys in the meantime, and then sex is great and I love sex, blah blah blah, but I'm also taking numbers, and I'm also, there's this contest of who wins me, who's the most impressive guy. And this is why girls don't give a crap about dates. This is why first dates are gone. This is why chivalry's dead. This is why men are like walking away, because it's like, why would I just get in line to compete for this used up thing? Or why would I get in line to compete when you're just like, you could take me or leave me? Like, it's not the same. You don't love me the way I love you. It's not the same, right? So this is the way I look at it, and it's like, yeah, why would you? Why would I join in this when, first of all, just by birth, I probably don't have what it takes anyway, because I'm not good looking enough, and I'm not, movie star rich, movie star rich and movie star good looking, movie star famous status, because that's what it takes now. It's like you move to New York and you got to pay like $3,000 in rent, $3,500 in rent. Seriously, go on a Craigslist or someplace that advertises how much even a condo or an apartment is in New York. It's like $3,500, like maybe $4,000 a month. Think about that. Can you afford that? And then you live in some small city and it's like $900 a month for a house, for a 2-bedroom house or something. I mean, it might be a little higher than that now, but it used to be like that a couple years ago. It was like $900, $950 for a 2-bedroom house, like maybe 5 or 10 years ago. Now it's probably higher, but it's, the point is like, it's all about location. It's all about perspective. It's like, This is why guys are going overseas. This is why guys are giving up on American women. The standard is too high. The narcissism is too high. The ego is too high. And guess what? The inner intrinsic value of these women doesn't match that. It doesn't match their standards. It doesn't match their expectations. They're not quality, traditional, wholesome, moral women anymore. And this is what men really want. If we're really talking about blue pill, what guys want in the blue pill, meaning what guys want in love, yeah, guys, yeah, we want to have sex with these hot girls, whatever, like sure. But women mistake that and conflate that with like, oh, we want to marry you too. Like, no, we want to have sex with you, but we unless you're a simp and you're blue pill and you're naive as a guy, you wouldn't want to marry used goods. You wouldn't want to marry a vapid, materialistic, shallow, unintelligent, not deep in her soul and her heart type of woman. You wouldn't want that. You wouldn't want to meet a woman who had marry a woman who has no wisdom. You just want to have sex with it. And this is why women are like, gosh, all guys want to do is have sex with me. Because what that means is that's all you have to offer. That's what that means. And they're too daft and naive to realize it. That's what that means. You don't have anything else. We can tell that you're not intelligent. We can tell that you're not sweet. You can tell that you're not loving. We can tell that you're not supportive. You're not humble. We can tell by just being around you for a little while, listening to you talk. We can tell by the way you dress. We can tell by your facial expressions. We can tell by your vibe and your aura. Just like women can tell, well, this guy is, this guy's getting laid and that guy's not getting laid. He didn't even have to tell me. I could just tell because of his confidence or his charisma, whatever. Women can tell certain things like that, but men can tell certain things about women. And this is what men don't get credit for is like, again, we're always just like pigeonholed into this target audience of like, we all just want to have sex with women and we're just weak men who are simps, and women like misconstrue us and they conflate us with something we're not. Like they don't realize that men have depth. We want love, and we have a blue pill perspective to our pursuits, for dating. And because the female ego is so narcissistic and is so overblown, they can't see that. They overlook it, or they underrate it. They underrate us. They think that we're so easy and here's the thing: if you are a low value woman, if you're a low value woman, and you don't know if you don't know you're a low value woman, then it's cookies. It's just problematic, right? But if you're a low value woman and you kind of know you're a low value woman, you should be wary of any guy who's interested in you. There's something wrong with it. And it's the same for a guy. If you don't have your stuff together, you should be, why is this woman interested in me? Because I'm not killing it. I'm not 10 out of 10 right now. I'm not in super shape. I'm not making the right money or whatever. Why is this woman interested? There's something weird about that. There's something off about that. Now it could just be like, oh, that's real love, maybe. But not if you're like, I don't know, man. It's funny because it's not the same thing. I used to say that a guy with no money, who's broke, who's out of shape, he's the same as a woman who's like used goods, single mom, high body count. I used to think those were kind of about the same. They're actually not. It's not the same. A woman who has a high body count is way worse than a guy who's like broke and he just has no money, because he can get money. He can go to the gym and get in shape. He can improve his life. You can't erase a high body count. You can't. There's nothing you can do. It's already done. You can't erase a high body count. And the damage from that, the emotional scars, the mental memories that the woman has, she's jaded, she's damaged. I think there's healing. There is such a thing as that in life. There is such a thing as healing. I think these women have to, once they meet a guy and they fall in love, or quote unquote fall in love, or settle, or whatever term you want to call it, get married, whatever. They have to heal. They got no choice, and then that's because they have to put an end to their past. And it's like, now they're with this guy and they got to heal, and it's like, well, whatever. I guess if I'm being objective and I'm not being a hater and I'm not Being vengeful, I would say maybe I would hope everybody gets a happy ending, in their life. But damage has been done, and you got to deal with that damage, and that's going to carry over into your relationship. It's going to carry over into your marriage. So it's not the same thing. I used to think that a guy who's broke was the same thing as a woman who's like a single mom, high body count, whatever. But it's not the same. It's really not. It's a difference. They're both low value, but they're a different species of low value, right? A low value guy who's got not a lot of money, he can improve. He can get a better career. He can get a nicer house, get nicer things. He can hit the gym. He can improve to whatever his capacity is. But a woman who's got a high body count, a woman who's a single mom, she can't erase that. That's just baggage that's going to follow her around probably for the rest of her life, even with intensive therapy, even with couples therapy, even with healing and things like that. There's going to be, if you got a scar, if you got a pretty nasty gash, a scar on your arm or your leg or something, like, I've got a scar on my leg, on my right shin, that I've had since I was, I think, 13 years old, 12, 13, 14, around that age. And it's healed, sure, but it's obviously, you look at it and there's a scar there. And it's going to be with me for the rest of my life. I've used like scar creams and stuff on it, and it might fade a little bit. It might help it a little bit, but it's just there. I can see it. So there's always going to be remnants from damage. When it comes to emotional damage, when it comes to psychological, there's going to be remnants. It's going to affect you for the rest of your life, the choices that you make. That's the thing about life is it's not always free. It's not always free from consequence, and it's not the same thing. A guy can go out and make money and forget his past, and that's not going to carry with him because now he's got money, and it's a whole different deal. But a woman who's had all these relationships in the past, high body count, that's gonna stick with her in one way or another, in her behavior, in the way she thinks, in the way she acts, whether she's manipulative, whereas you have a girl who's pure and loving and who just wanted real love, and she found it. And I'm not saying she was a virgin necessarily, but she maybe she dated one guy for like 5 or 10 years, and she loved that dude, and yeah, they had sex, but she was only with that dude, and it was a love thing, and for whatever reason it didn't work out. Now she's with you, and it's like, that's a lot better than having like 50 boyfriends, which a lot of these women have, and their body count might be twice that, 100. Their body count might be in the hundreds, because in between those boyfriends, they went out and had some fun. Every once in a while, they went to the club and hooked up, and well, I'm not with anybody now. I had this bad breakup, so now I'm just doing me, and I'm having fun, and I'm living life, and woo woo woo. And then all of a sudden, she's got 25 body count. All of a sudden she's got 40, 50 body count, 60, 70 body count. She's just having fun because she just can't find the right guy because her standards are higher, whatever. This guy took advantage of her, whatever. And then all of a sudden she's 30, 35, and she's got 100 body count. And now you inherit that, and now you gotta heal for the rest of your life and learn how to live with her and learn how to be with her. Good luck, man. That's daunting. And this whole body positivity, radical feminist crap, we're like, oh, that's fine, it's, just expressing and da-da-da-da, right? So that's how I look at it, man. That's how I look at it. Is, for me, as a self-respecting man, as a man who I'm not coming in this thinking like, I'm just going to take what I can get, I don't deserve anything, like, if you have confidence in yourself and you have self-worth, now there's a spectrum. You don't want to have too much confidence and cockiness in yourself, because then you turn arrogant, and then you turn cocky, and nobody likes that. That's not realistic, or it's just you're just a jerk. Like, you still want to be humble, but at the same time, like, hey, I deserve something good here. I deserve a quality woman. I'm a good guy. I want love. I believe in morals. I believe in righteousness. I believe in truth. I believe in kindness, etc. And I practice these things in my life. I deserve somebody who meets that energy. I'm not out here trying to, work in the matrix so that I can get a wife, so I gotta go out and make sure I got a good career, so now I can get a wife because I got a job. And a lot of guys do that. They're bartering with their finances and their resources and their careers so that they can I'm here to have kids, and this is why a lot of relationships don't work out, because it's all calculated, it's all technical, it's all about like, well, he was a really solid guy, and that's when I met him, and he really had his good career. A lot of women are doing that, and it's like they're treating love as if it's like a job interview. They're treating love as if it's like it's just an exchange of resources for intimacy, man. But no, if you're a guy out here saying, "Hey, I've got these quality inner uh, traits: kindness, love, righteousness, truth. I live by these things. I live in the light. I live in, I'm not out here trying to manipulate. I'm not out here trying to, sleep with these women. I'm not out here trying to be a player or a gigolo. I'm not out here trying to, you know, confuse and manipulate and woo woo. Like you're living honestly. You're living a traditional in the sense that you're real. That hey, you know what? I'm here for love. I'm here for kind of, you deserve somebody who meets that energy. You deserve some. It's like what I think a lot of guys do is if they start out being blue pilled and they think that's enough, because that's what I did. I thought that was enough. I was like, well, it's just gonna happen. I assume there's, because it's like, well, it happens in the movies. It must happen in real life. Like, I'm just gonna meet this gorgeous girl who really likes me for me, and that's all that matters. And then it's like, and then I realize, oh, whenever I meet these attractive women who I think I might be interested in for long term, they're sizing me up based on my income, based on my status, based on, all these materialistic outward things. And then I was like, oh, okay. That's when I realized, okay, real love is not real. It doesn't work that way. It's arranged. It's earned in the sense that you jump through the you jump through the hoops, and you click off her boxes. And a lot of guys out here think like, well, that's what it means to be a man, is you got to go out here and earn the money, and that's what a man is. And then he gets the woman, and it's just like this weird like situation where like, yeah, my dad works and my mom is, and it's just like, I mean, I'm not, don't get me wrong, obviously we all got to work, we all got to make money and things like that, but the point is like, you just have these transactional relationships where it's conditional on outward finances, it's conditional on the guy's status or his fame or how he impressed her, and like all this, and it's like, I want no parts of that, man. Again, if I'm out here, I'm a kind, loving, God-fearing, moral, truthful man. That's what I offer, and I'm funny, and I'm a good dude. I'm loyal. I'm loving. I'm caring. I care about your feelings and stuff like that. I'm a catch, and a lot of guys out here don't realize that, because they don't stick to their guns, or they don't have a solid base in what's really important in life, and so they're just sad because they think like, well, gosh, I got to go out here and work in the matrix and become part of the matrix so I can afford a woman. And it's depressing because all these women out here are sleeping around, and they get dejected because it is depressing. You want a quality woman. You want a woman who's loving and pure, because that's a part of it, man. The fact that she slept with 50 other dudes before well, I'm number 52, I'm number 51, 52, like, what can I do better than the other dudes she was with, who had bigger dicks than me, who were in better shape than me, who were funnier and more witty and cooler and more bad boy than me, and I come along and I'm the cleanup guy. She likes me because I'm stable and I'm docile, and she knows I won't cheat on her because I can't get anybody else, and I make a certain amount of money that she's okay with, and like all these conditions, because she's settling. You're not her passionate love choice, right? That's not good for the average man. That's not love. That's not a win. That's not a win, bro. That's a patch. That's a band-aid on a broken system. That's what that is. That's a band-aid on a broken system. It's a semblance of something that is really not there anymore. Oh, we got this marriage certificate. That's a semblance of something that used to mean something, that used to be something quality, where you had this quality love, this quality partnership, this bond. I don't even like the word partnership anymore, but this bond, this mutuality between men and women who were married, who really loved each other, supported each other, who met each other's energy, but it's all because of the narcissism, because of the gynocentrism, because of the female worship, the sex worship, because she's used, she's damaged. It can never be that anymore. It can never be that. We've lost it, and for the engineers and the people, particularly the devil, the people who, are behind the scenes that engineered that, they're winning. They've won in that sense, in a way. It's damaged, and I'm not saying it can't work. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm not saying it's not out there for you. But by and large, very difficult. So that's how I look at it. It's like, why would I mean, I got two choices. I could be a simp and I could grovel to women, or I could man up and be like, hey, I'm not taking no shorts. I'm not taking no losses. I'm not taking no, I'm not kowtowing up to a woman. I'm not sucking up to a woman. I'm not simping. I am what I am. I'm going to hold my ground. I'm a red pill man. I deserve what I deserve. I know what I deserve. And if I can't get it, cool, I'll be single. And I'm going to enjoy being single. I'm going to be happy because I'm not going to settle. I'm not going to go out here and simp and grovel up just so I can get some used goods who's going to take me for granted. That ain't going to happen. That's how I look at it. All right. I think I said enough on that. Appreciate you guys listening. It's been Jay Lee with Northwest Podcast. Peace.